Hello, everybody. It's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We have reached another Friday, so of course, I have another Film Rec Friday collection ready for you. Now, this week's set of 6 films I put together after discovering one of my childhood favorite movies is now available on Hoopla. And I have loved this movie from the very first time I watched it. And even from that moment, I have always thought that it was an incredibly odd film. So, all of the movies today are what I like to call wonderfully weird. What do I mean by wonderfully weird? Well, these movies are strange. They're strange in either premise, performance style, tone, whatever, but will still oftentimes leave you with the warm fuzzies by the end. So sometimes I think I just really enjoy that sort of thing. Stuff that's off kilter and quirky and strange, but still like nice and charming. So today's films, like I said, all kind of have that vibe to them. I feel like spring, early summer is the perfect time to watch those kinds of movies, and I hope you will agree. So, like always, all of these recommendations are available totally for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and they are going to be available on one of our 3 video services, which are, of course, CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. So, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into the recommendations. Okay, I have just one recommendation from CleveNet's Overdrive for you today, and that one is called Today's Special. Now, Today's Special is an interesting film in that it's absolutely geared towards foodies, but it's also geared slightly towards comedy fans, towards fantasy fans. There's elements of family drama and family comedy. It's just one of those movies that adds so many things to it and so many themes and vibes, but it doesn't end up feeling like a mishmash at all. It still feels like a totally cohesive movie, well written, well acted, and just absolutely a great time while you're watching. So today's special tells the story of a young man named Samir who is a sous chef with dreams of becoming the head chef at this fancy, incredibly upscale, very Western restaurant, right? Unfortunately, circumstances come to pass where he essentially continually gets passed over for a promotion. And he then discovers that there's some issues with family at home, and he is essentially coerced into taking over temporarily the family restaurant. Um, he has very little interest in ethnic or culturally connected food. He's definitely all about the flash, the glitz and glam of your mainstream cuisine. But as the film moves along, he's able to find essentially the magic in his heritage cooking. He meets some really incredibly strange people from, um, fellow chefs to just community members. And in particular, he meets one gentleman who really is able to show him the magic of spices. And that magic is metaphorical, but also potentially not. That's what makes this one really, really interesting. The elements of realistic fantasy that are sort of placed within it. It actually kind of reminded me of this film that I watched ages and ages ago, which is nowhere near as well done, called Simply Irresistible, also sort of like a culinary fantasy piece. This one is definitely much more grounded in reality, but they had that same sort of like warm and fuzzy tone, and I don't know if that's something that just comes along with these sort of familial foodie films or what, but you really get a sense of home, of belonging, of the desire to belong and connect. So if you're looking for sort of a heartwarming film that has a ton of ridiculous comedy, a lot of ridiculous situations, like a hint of romance, definitely check out Today's Special. It's sweet and it's definitely a quick and easy watch. So yeah, that's today's special on CleveNet. Overdrive. Okay, moving right along to our hoopla recommendations, the first of which is the movie that sort of spurred me to put together this whole collection, and that is the movie musical Little Shop of Horrors. Now, Little Shop of Horrors came out in the 80s and has been one of my absolute favorite movies from the very first time I saw it. It comes from the musical team of Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, who put together so many of the Disney scores that we know from the 80s and early 90s, like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. And the soundtrack to Little Shop of Horrors is absolutely fantastic. You've got this sort of R&B vibe mixed with your traditional musical, mixed with sort of doo-wop. It's just fantastic, and the performers in this movie do such a good job with it. Um, Little Shop of Horrors, the musical, is based on another earlier film, just also titled Little Shop of Horrors, that had no music, which was a Corman film. It is definitely sort of campy and ridiculous horror, but more funny than anything else, I would say. This brings everything to an entirely different level. It's got humor, it's got drama, it's got romance, and of course, under all of that is this fantastic, fantastic soundtrack. Um, with this film, you're basically following the storyline of Seymour, who is this meek, sort of weak-willed flower shop assistant. He's in love and has been for years with this beautiful, um, also meek woman named Audrey, who at the time of the movie happens to be dating this sadistic dentist. And the sadistic dentist is played by Steve Martin, and oh my goodness, he's so, so, so good in this. He sings he sings one of the best numbers in the entire film, and he just, every time he's on screen, just takes over. um, Rick Moranis, who is always extraordinarily solid, plays Seymour, and Ellen Green plays Audrey. Uh, these three just are magic. I mean, they're absolutely magic. And it's funny that I can feel so strongly about such a niche film. I mean, it's sentient plant horror musical comedy romance. Um, like, how many films are in that category? Not a whole lot. But this one's still the best of all of those. So yeah, you've got these three and their interactions, but alongside that, you've got the story of Seymour's pet plant, who starts out as this adorable little Venus flytrap looking thing and eventually develops into a much more terrifying, somewhat bloodthirsty giant flora. I don't know what to describe it as without giving much more away, but it is definitely vicious, but also an excellent singer too. I believe its voice is done by Levi Stubbs, and is also who is also incredible in this role. So, if you're looking for something that's a ton of fun, I mean, and yes, I absolutely fangirl all over the place with this, but it's just so good. You've got incredible humor from so many of the performers. You've got exceptional music. I mean, alongside things like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, this is still my absolute favorite soundtrack from that musical team. Anyway, you also have some serious cameos going on in here. Like Bill Murray has a very teeny tiny role. You've also got the late great John Candy, who plays a small role in here. I mean, you will recognize so many faces. Um, Again, I just can't recommend this movie enough. If you like musicals at all, if you like comedies, if you like sort of campy horror, if you like horror in general, please, please, please check out Little Shop of Horrors. It is absolutely worth the watch. My other hoopla recommendation is The Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. This title is also based on a book by Douglas Adams, And I think they've done a very nice job with the adaptation. I am thoroughly entertained by this movie. I know that when it came out, there were some like mixed feelings amongst the fans, but I again really really liked it. I thought it had a lot of really great things going on with it. Now, with Hitchhiker's Guide, you've got Arthur Dent, who initially is just having some personal financial problems at the beginning of the movie, only to discover he has much bigger things to worry about, such as the potential demolition of Earth by outside alien forces. He discovers his best friend in the world is an alien and has always been an alien, and ends up getting pulled into this intergalactic adventure. Now, amongst all of this is some serious British humor. If you like Monty Python, if you like that sort of dry, sort of droll, weird humor that they sort of are known for, you definitely need to watch this. Um, it's very smart, very clever, but also very goofy and silly at the same time, and I love those that kind of humor. Um, the main cast is performed by Martin Freeman, who is Arthur Dent. You've got an exceptional performance from Mos Def as Ford Prefect. That would be Arthur's alien best friend. You've got Sam Rockwell, who is always extraordinarily solid, playing this over the top, absolutely ludicrous character of Zaphod Beetlebrox. And then you also have Zoe Deschanel thrown in the mix, who is quirky and odd and plays a lot of similar characters in everything she does, but it works so perfectly in this that I don't really care. While she's not playing against type, it fits and it works, so I'm perfectly happy with her in this. Um, Arthur is on this quest to, I guess, find the meaning of life, and has so many strange and wonderful interactions with all the all the aliens and beings that he meets, and you're just sort of absorbed in it all, because while all of this is going on, you've got that constant weird, quirky, strange, over the top British humor going on, and it all just sort of melds together in this perfect, strange, wonderful, weird movie. And I really again enjoy this adaptation so much. um Hitchhiker's Guide is part of a bigger series from Douglas Adams. If you're interested in reading the books, I strongly recommend them. They're fantastic. But this particular film is perfectly self-contained. It's not something that you finish watching and you're like, I wish like I knew what was going on, or there should be more. That's not what this is. This is a good, solid, self-contained movie. One more element that I absolutely love is the especially entertaining performance from Alan Rickman as the perpetually put upon semi or not so semi depressed android named Marvin. Um, I have always loved Alan Rickman's voice, and it just works so well in this downtrodden mechanical being. It's so perfect. So yeah, if you're just looking for a film that's fun, funny, science fictiony, that has fantastic, fantastic performances, and is overall wonderfully weird, make sure you check out Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on Hoopla. You won't regret it. Okay, my final three recommendations are, of course, all from Canopy, and the first of those is a movie called Galaxy Quest. Now, Galaxy Quest is a love letter to every science fiction fan out there. It is this is a love letter to Trekkies. It's a love letter to the people who love Star Wars. It's just a movie that is going to speak to anyone who's ever been a fan of shows and films of that sort. Now, in Galaxy Quest, we're dealing with a lot of meta. happenings. It's about this group of aging actors who were once part of this super, super popular science fiction series on television. Very similar to, say, Star Trek, the original series. You've got a really like alpha male style main character played by Tim Allen. You've got this lovely, sort of vaguely, I don't want to use the word useless, but her character is just there because she's pretty, uh, female lieutenant played by the incomparable Sigourney Weaver. You've got Alan Rickman playing a Spock-like character named Dr. Lazarus. Um, and more. And you've got these very sort of archetypal characters that these actors have played on this series, and you've got this fandom surrounding the series. People are rabidly fond of the show. These actors go to conventions and they do their thing like the Star Trek people do in real life, except at some point, a group of aliens sees the show and thinks that it's real, and so believes that these actors are actually capable of all these great feats that they perform in the TV series. So they essentially hire them to help them out with a more vicious alien entity that's threatening them. So you've got this major thread of the story going on, but underneath it you've got all of the little bumps and intricacies from the acting cast itself. You know, everybody has personality issues with one another. You've got one actor who was a trained Shakespearean actor, and he's like, "Why was I even in this stupid TV show?" I mean, there's so much going on, and it works because it has so many layers to it. There's the meta-ness, and it's just fun. It's just fun. And if you've ever followed, say, like the Star Trek series, and if you are at all familiar with behind the scenes elements of the series, how the different personalities clashed or didn't clash, how they over the years developed their relationships amongst one another, this movie speaks so well to that. And it's definitely an homage. It pokes fun, but it also clearly has so much love for the people that were in original roles and who essentially, built up these science fiction fandoms around the world. And yeah, Galaxy Quest is just wonderful for people like me who grew up loving and watching shows like that. If you are someone who likes meta stories, if you are someone who enjoys science fiction, if you like adventure films, if you love comedy, because this thing is hilarious, you absolutely, absolutely need to watch Galaxy Quest. It is everything that I could want in a science fiction comedy. It's just a really, really wonderfully weird movie. So again, Galaxy Quest on Canopy. Make sure you watch it. My next recommendation from Canopy is incredibly weird, and I'm still, after all this time, trying to decide if I think it's wonderful or not. And that is the movie Swiss Army Man. Swiss Army Man is one of those movies that when I was watching it, the very first time especially, I was like, this is brilliant, and I have no idea if I like it or not. It pushes the boundaries of weird for me a little bit more than any of the other films that I've included. Um, you've got a story that essentially revolves around two characters, a young man stranded on a deserted island named Hank, and a dead body that he discovers. Now, the young man named Hank is played by Paul Dano, who is always exceptionally good in what he does. He picks really weird projects and does a phenomenal job with those roles. The dead body is played by Daniel Radcliffe of Harry Potter fame. Now, why would Harry Potter be playing a dead body? I would guess one, this is so against type it's not even funny. And he has continued to pick roles like that, to pick roles that are so far afield from anything Harry Potter-ish that he can establish himself as a real actor. But besides that, an actual recognizable human being is playing a dead body because it's a sentient dead body, if that makes sense. I mean, it shouldn't, but it he's not a zombie, he's not anything. He's a dead body with a consciousness, that still can think. It has no real memories, but he still exists in the regular realm, I guess. It's, like I said, a very weird movie. um you've got a lot of comedy based on like bodily functions, so it's way over the top and definitely not a comedy that I'm accustomed to or usually drawn to. But I think it all sort of like leans on on itself, like the weirdness and the style of humor, the style of performance. It all works. And again, while I was watching, I definitely was like, this is brilliant, but I don't know if I like it. And that's why I really think that I wanted to add this to the set list, mainly because I think watching movies that kind of challenge you and make you go, huh, it is part of the fun of finding these odd little films. Um, this one might be too weird for a lot of people out there. It's definitely a little too weird for me, but you do have two really solid performers in it, and their performances are excellent. Like, how you can put yourself in a role that is so absurd and that relies so heavily on absurdist humor. I have no idea how you can do that and not break in front of the camera, but they do such a good job. They're like absolutely in it to win it. Um, so I would say this one's a great one if you're looking for impressive acting. If you are looking for just really strange, off the beaten path kinds of storytelling and humor, this is also really good for that. Um, it's not your standard movie, and I know that obviously from, if you even just read the film description, you'll probably be able to gather that. But I still think this is, with all its weirdness, absolutely worth a watch because it pushes you, I think, to sort of ask what kind of films you really like, where are your boundaries of certain kinds of humor, certain kinds of storytelling, things like that. So please do check out Swiss Army Man. Odd and very, very weird. You judge if it's wonderful or not. um my very last recommendation from CleveNet is for a film that I have mentioned before, but it's too wonderful, too weird, too utterly perfect not to mention again in this particular category. And that is the film What We Do in the Shadows, which for me is one of the all-time best mockumentaries out there. I actually enjoy this more than I enjoy Spinal Tap, which I know is sacrilege to a lot of film fans, but I can watch this movie over and over and over again. Whereas with Spinal Tap, like, I'll watch it, wait a few years, watch it again. Not so with this one. So What We Do in the Shadows will make you laugh as much as anything else. It does have horror elements, but they're sort of negligible in the humor of everything. It follows the story of these four vampire roommates who are just struggling to navigate the contemporary world. Sometimes they are more successful than others. Oftentimes they are simply not successful at all. And in that comes the humor. One of this quartet turns what he intended to be a meal into a brand new vampire friend for them. And that's where things just go off the rails and ridiculous. All four of the primary vampires have such distinct personalities. You've got Taika Waititi playing one of the vamps, and Waititi was uh, the rock guy in Thor Ragnarok. He also played Hitler in Jojo Rabbit. Um, he's so wonderful anytime he's on screen. I find his performances to be so endearing, so strange, and so wonderful. He makes the entire movie for me. But all of the other characters are also equally solid. They're strange. Like, these characters are not like characters you think of when you're going to think of brilliant performances, but the actors, the way they approach each role, it works so well that you get attached to them, even though they're odd and they're strange and they're vicious in some ways. They're still just so likable. You like them all. um you definitely get a different vision of vampire life with this film. I mean, it's definitely not the Twilight movies. There's no glittering vamps anywhere to be. There are no glittering vamps anywhere to be found, and I absolutely adore it. It's if you're looking for something hilarious, if you were looking for a vampire story in general, just like well written, but strange, weirdly wonderful, make sure you check out What We Do in the Shadows. It is a really solid film. They did also create a TV series, I believe, a short-lived TV series based on this sort of universe as well. So definitely worth a watch. So again, What We Do in the Shadows, now available on Canopy. Now, that was my last recommendation for the week. As always, if you didn't find any of these 6 recommendations to your liking, make sure you check out the services anyway. You will 100% be able to find something that does tickle your fancy, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of videos available out there, again, for free with your library card. If you have any recommendations for wonderfully weird movies that you think we should be watching, please comment and leave them below. I am always looking for movies to watch. If you have any recommendations for future themes that you would like to see, comment and leave those recommendations below as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Thank you for joining us this week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!